Hello, welcome to Trisha's Cards and Crafts. And what's on Wednesday? Well, today I'm going to do some watercolouring on Wednesday, and I'm going to be making a get well card, thinking of you, sort of making sure somebody knows that you are thinking of them card. And I'm going to be using some watercolour. This is Fluid 100 watercolour card from Stampin' Up. It's this card here, Fluid 100. It's 100% cotton card paper, I don't know. And I'm also going to be using the Botanical Beauty stamp set, cling stamp set. It's a big card, and I've put it onto a block, the biggest block I have, and it's not quite big enough. So you will see how I get over this. I'm afraid I did have a slight problem just now. I had nearly finished the card, and then I realised that my camera had stopped recording after about a minute. So I don't know quite how far I got, but it was quite a long way. So I'm going to just start again. So this time, this is what I managed to prepare last time. So I did a watercolour wash for the background, and then I stamped the stamp on top of that. So I'm going to try and do that, replicate this again. So I'm using Orchid Oasis and Berry Burst, and just to maybe be a bit quicker this time, I'm going to use some water and I'm going to spritz it over the top of the card, so hopefully it will get wetter quicker. So hopefully it won't take as long. So I'm just going to do this bit out of the way, so I want it to be nice and wet, and my spritzer is nearly out of water, so I need to do it. There we go. Right, it's very wet now. I'm going to use a watercolour brush. I think this is the one I used last time. Yeah, there's no colour left on it, so I've put loads of water down so it's nice and wet, and I'm going to use the ink that's off the ink pad and on the, here we go, just make it nice and wet. And this is the Berry Burst, so I'm going to start on this side, and I want it nice. I didn't make it this wet last time, but this time I've made it a lot wetter, but that's hopefully going to speed up the process, and it'll be nice and wet this time, although it might take a bit longer to dry, but you will get the idea. So that's the Berry Burst, and I've got the Orchid Oasis here. Just add some more water. Oh, I didn't dry my brush off first and get the colour out. Did this last time. I don't want pink in my blue, so because it's coming through quite pinky. So let's hopefully get as much of this out as possible. So just by pushing the water through, it pushes the colour out as well. So hopefully most of the colour is out now. I think so. So I'm going to use this Orchid Oasis, and I'm going to go on the other half of the card with the Orchid Oasis. And this should help it to blend a bit better as well, because it's wetter. The card itself is wetter, so it's not too bad. Okay, sort of helping it to blend together. I just do it slightly over the top. I don't want too much over the top. Might just see if I can just take a little bit extra ink and make it a little bit darker. This side. There we go. Last time I just wet it with the brush and it didn't get, I don't think, wet enough. This time it's very wet. So just make sure, don't want any prints on it. So there we go. So that I think is okay. Just want to take a bit more of this blue off my brush again. So again, pushing the water through to take some of the colour off. I don't want any colour left on it now, if I can help it. I just want to go over the middle with the water, just to try and make sure that it's blended really well. There we go. I think that should be fine. So any colour that's left should be more or less off now. There we go. Now I've got to dry my card. Move that out of the way. So good job, I just had enough of the watercolour paper. So put that out of the way as well. Get rid of my brush. Oh, lost the lid. Never mind. I need to dry that off a bit too. Put that over there for a second. The lid. I can see it. Oops. Hello. Found my lid. There we go. Put that on. There we go. Clicked. And use a piece of this just to wipe this off, because I want to carry on using this, but I don't want it wet, because I want it nice and dry for when I do the stamping. There we go. So get as much of that off as possible. Now we need to dry this off, and I'm going to use my heat gun, so it'll be a bit it's going to be a bit noisy for a minute, because I'm going to use, I'll just take that off a minute. I don't want you to use that on this. There we go. Right, you could use this technique with watercolour paints. You could use it with probably watercolour pencils or anything like that. It doesn't have to be inks. If you are using inks, make sure they are water-based inks and not alcohol-based inks. Then you won't get the same effects. But you could use alcohol instead of water then to make it work, if you had alcohol inks to help to spread it around. So that, I think, is about as flat as I'm going to get it. Could, if I can find it, use my, whoops, here we go. And it's quite dry now, which is what I needed it to be, so that I can just going to use my bone folder to just make sure it's as straight as I can get it, and then I'll do it on the other side. I don't want it bent if possible. I want it to be as flat as I can get it. There we go, because when I go to put my stamp over the top, I need it to be as flat as it can be. Right, so I've got my stamp here, which obviously I have used before. And now I'm going to try and use it again. And I'm using Gorgeous Grape, and I'm just making sure it's got plenty of ink all over me, as well as on the stamp. I'd rather have it just on the stamp than on me. But there we go. Right, so there's plenty of ink on there. I'm just going to put this down there for a second. Make sure I haven't got any on my fingers. And then I'm going to put this down on here like that. Press it down to make sure that you get as much of the ink to stick onto the surface as possible. So hold it down to give it plenty of time to soak into the paper, because you have got already colour on the paper, and I didn't leave it very long and I didn't press it very hard last time, so it hasn't given the best image that it could have done. But hopefully this time I did a bit more pressure, so it's still not quite there, but it's not far off. And I'm just going to do this edge, so I'll just ink this edge up again. I'll do what I did last time and just did it, just went down again, second time, just on the edge. I don't want to put too much there, I just want a little bit of the image there. There we go. So there we go. So that's how, if you haven't got, if my image was a little bit longer than the actual stamp, my paper, sorry, was a little bit longer than my stamp, so it did need to be put down, repeated a bit at the end. So that is my background. So that was my first attempt, and that is the second attempt. So it's not that much different, really. So again, if you have a stamping platform that you could use it, and you can make sure then that you get a nice cleaner image than I've got, because you could repeat it more than once. But because it's a cling stamp rather than a polymer stamp, photopolymer stamp, you don't have that option, because you can't see through the stamp to see where it was that you stamped before. And it also isn't that easy anyway to do it without a stamping platform. But if you've got one, Stampin' Up! Don't do them anymore, but they did used to do them. They used to be the Stamparatus, but they don't sell that anymore, so we haven't got that option. But if you've got one, you can use one to do that with, and then you can make sure that your images are a lot clearer than this, because the paper is textured. It doesn't always get to the paper as much as you would otherwise. If it was a smooth paper, it would take a lot better. So that is the background, and I have cut a piece. This piece was 5 inches by 3 1/4, and I've cut this piece 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. So this has got a border around it, and then I've got a card base, which is half of an A5 sheet, which is half of an A4, which when you fold it in half gives you an A6 size card, which is approximately 4 1/8 by 5 7/8. Okay, so that is the size of my card. And now I'm going to do a sentiment. So what I have stamped it, but I will stamp it again on the back, just to show you that I will do it. This is in Gorgeous Grape again, and I'm using the stamp from the Hot Air Balloon stamp set, and I'm using Just a Note to Lift You Up and Hang in There, because I think it actually goes with what I want to say. The sentiment, I've got purple ink everywhere now, sorry. And here's I'll just show you what I did. Just inked it up and stamped it down. There you go. And then what I'm going to do, I'll put the other one inside, but I'll do that afterwards. I'm going to cut around this one, because I think this one's come out nicer. So I'm just going to fussy cut this. I'm not going to use, I don't think there are any dies for this. There might be, but I'm not going to bother with that at the moment. I'm just going to cut around, just leaving a small white border around the words. And here. Here we go. Whoops. There we go. Nearly there. A little bit fiddly, but it's not that bad. So I'm just going to finish that off there. So just a note to lift you up, and then I don't need that now. I'm going to add this to this Highland Heather card. I'm just going to use, if I can find it. What have I done with that? I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to use some tape pen to go across, stick it down with. There we go. And put this down here. There we go, nearly there. Right, I'm going to put that down here, and then I'm going to cut, leaving a small edge around that as well. Once I've taken the glue off. There we go. Right. And again, fussy cutting this around, leaving a small border around the white outline as well. Not too much, and trying to make sure that it's equal all the way around. Oops. There we go. So don't need that piece. Right, so we can try and put this all together now. Just got a lot of colour all over my fingers. So I'm going to use some of the mini, if I can find them. There's nothing there. Right, I'm going to cut this up. I'm going to cut that along there, so I just use a small amount of that, a bit more than that. That should be enough. Okay, so I'm using the edge strip. I don't need the whole of it, so I've only taken some of it, and I'm going to put this on here for now. I'll finish it off in a moment. So that's there. Let's put the card together. And we've got this. I'm going to use, I think, some of my Seal Plus, if there's enough of it left. I can't find my Stampin' Seal. I have got some somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So we'll just be as frugal as possible with this. And that go down, hopefully with a small border around it there. And then again with this one, some more tape. Oops, don't want to take that off. I didn't want that to happen, but never mind. Won't be using that one again. Right, I think I want it that way round. And I'm going to make sure I've got an even border around there. And press it down so that it's as flat as I can get it. So there's my card. Now I can take, I might see if I've got some, what can I use? Some ribbon. I've got, that probably won't be great. Let's have a look. Oops. Got some Lost Lagoon, which might look nice. I'll use a piece of this. Don't need too much. And I'm going to just put it on there like that, and then that will go over the top like that. So I want to move that out of the way a second. And I will just put some of this tape pen down, because I've even lost, can't use my stamp and seal either. So that's going to go down there like that. Should have trimmed that off first, so it was at an angle and then it wouldn't have frayed. There we go, that will do. So that's there, and then this will go over the top. I have to go up there now because I've got the glue there. So never mind. All these things are sent to try us. But there we go. So a note to lift you up. Oops, we'll have to go like that. I will get that off. There we go. So that's my sentiment on there. And I'm going to put some, I'll use some of these purple fine shimmer gems on here as well, just to brighten it up a bit as well. So I'm going to use, I'll use one of these there, use a darker one down here, and another, a lighter one over here. There we go. So I've got my 3 gems on there. Put these away. That's a daisy. There we go. And there's my card. I will just finish off the inside. And which one am I using? No. I want a little flower. I think I could use this on the inside from the Heartfelt Hexagon stamp set. Just use this, or I could use that with the flower. No, I'll just use that. So I'll need another block for that. And I think it will fit on there. There we go. So now we get our gorgeous grape again. Make sure I haven't got any on my fingers. Hang in there. Put that on the inside here. I could have done it the other way, but I think it looks quite nice that way. And I'm going to put this coming in from the corner there. There we go. And I will we'll do an envelope. Got some envelopes here, so here's an envelope to go with it, and I'm going to do the same thing with this coming in from the side here. I could actually do one on the other side as well. I will. So we will come in off both sides of the envelope. So we've got our card and envelope. And there we go. Now I've got ink on my fingers again. Not clever today. Right, so I hope you enjoyed my watercolour What's on Wednesday. The watercolour background. I think it works quite well with this sort of stamp. Again, it doesn't have to be a background stamp like this one. It could be different images, lots of smaller images, and you can just make up your own background and stamp them randomly around as you like. Okay, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you give it a go. See if you can make your a card yourself, and I hope I'll see you again soon. I should be back again tomorrow with another project, and we'll see where we go from there. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye bye.